Gurubhyo Namaha, Namo Namaha. Welcome to Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga, Session 5. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarotam Pravaram Munina Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankhachakrasidarinam Sagasra Shirasam Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim Srimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha. Welcome. In the last session we covered Yogash Chitta Vritti Nirodha. We completed that sutra, but in this session what we will do, that related to the word Nirodha, what are the other sutras are there. So we are going to see from Pada, chapter 3, sutra number 9, sutra number 10, 11, 12. 9, 10, 11, 12. Four sutras we are going to see. What we are going to see is Nirodha Parinama. Nirodha Parinama means the transformation of restraint. Then we are going to see Samadhi Parinama, Samadhi transformation. Then we are going to see Ekagrata Parinama, one-pointedness transformation. We are going to see that, and we are going to relate this to the sutra which we saw, Yogash Chitta Vritti Nirodha. See, when we say Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the thoughts, regulation of the thought, where does the thought come from? Where does the thought come from? It comes from the imprints, that is called samskara. So if you want to control the thought, restrain the thought, you have to restrain the samskara or the imprints. So the outgoing, the samskara which has got a tendency to go out, it is called vittana samskara. And the samskara which is restraining that outgoing tendency is called Nirodha samskara. So what we should do? We should suppress the outgoing tendency with the restraining tendency. Then what happens? The mind will be in a state of calmness, peace. That state is known as Nirodha Parinama. So this Vyuttana Parinama Samskara and Nirodha Samskara, they are not two separate things. They are complementary. It's like two pedals of the cycle. When you press one pedal, one pedal comes up, means other pedal goes down. When there is a distraction, then the concentration is less. When the concentration increases, the distraction comes down. This is what mentioned in chapter 3, sutra 9. We will see that. Yuttana Nirodha Samskara Yoho Abhibhava Pradurbhavau Nirodha Kshana Chitta Anvayo Nirodha Parinamaha. Whatever I said, they have mentioned the same thing. Vyuttana Abhibhava. Abhibhava means the disappearance, the suppression of the outgoing samskara. Then simultaneously what happens? The restraining samskara, that becomes pradurbhava. Pradurbhava means that becomes manifest or that becomes strong. Then in this time, during the time of restraint, then what happens? The mind is attached to that continuous cessation time, restrained time. Then the mind becomes peaceful. This is what this sutra says that. Okay? Vyuttana Nirodha Samskara Yoho Abhibhava Pradurbhavau Nirodha Kshana Chitta Anvayo Nirodha Parinamaha. Then When I was reading a book, Jivan Mukti Viveka, then that is all, there also this mentioning is there. Immediately I thought I'll share with you. In Jivan Mukti Viveka, there is a verse which says that Vyuttana samskaraha abhibhuyante Nirodha samskaraha pradurbhavanti Nirodha yuktaha chittena anviyate saha ayam manonashaha iti avagantavyam. What they say, to be very brief, is this Nirodha Parinama. Nirodha Parinama is what? When the outgoing tendency is restricted by the restricted tendency, controlled, suppressed by the restricted tendency, then there is a, during the time of restriction, the mind stays there. The mind is also very calm, peaceful, right? That is called Nirodha Parinama. That is what called, he says, Manonashaha. The destruction of the mind is that. So Nirodha Parinama is equal to Manonashaha. One thing we need to understand, Guna, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, they are always in flux. They keep changing. They are not static. So the mind, the Chitta, is also made of the three gunas. Excepting Mula Prakriti, everything has got gunas. The gunas are in flux, a state of flux. So the Chitta is also made of three gunas, and the gunas are in flux. So the Chitta is also in flux. Then how can you restrain them? There should be a question, right? That we are going to deal today in this session, right? So then next one is, there is always movement in the mind. Mind is never static. There is always movement in the mind. Even the mind appears to be completely restrained by this meditation. It appears to be completely restrained and fixed on a particular object. Whatever we take it for meditation, the mind is always in the movement. It's very dynamic. It is not static. Arigarananda gives a very good example. It's like a spring, you know. A sofa in which inside the spring is there. When you sit, the spring is depressed or repressed, right? Then it goes down. Then no sooner the person gets up from the sofa, it comes back to the normal position. Similarly, the mind always wants to go out. By meditation, you suppress the tendency to go out, then it remains in the restrained state. That is a peaceful state. Then no sooner that the concentration is reduced, then immediately the mind comes out, the thought comes out, and we do all various transactions in the world, right? So the restoring samskara, what happens is, it is a continuous flow. Then only you can do meditation. The restraining samskara should be continuously there to suppress the outgoing samskara. Then only that the meditation can continue. During the period of continuous flow of this restraining samskara, impressions, mental impression, there is a peace. You will feel completely peaceful. That's why when you are into the meditation, deep meditation, that state will be very peaceful. This is what's said in Yoga Sutra 3.10. Tasya prasanda vahita samskarat. The mind which is in the state of restrainment, it feels shanti, prashanta vahita, the flow of happy peace from the Nirodha samskara. Now we will go to Sutra 11, chapter 3. Sarva artata eka agratayoho shaya udayau chittasya samadhi parinamaha. We saw already Nirodha Parinama. Now what is Samadhi Parinama? In Samadhi Parinama, Sarva Artata, the mind, instead of going to various objects, started focusing on one object, the object of meditation, whatever the object we want to have for meditation. So what happens? The Sarva Artata Shaya becomes, and Ekagrata becomes Udaya. Udaya means appearance becomes strong. That is when the outward going mind on various object is weakened and the mind is focused on a single object, that is called Samadhi Parinamaha. Now the question I asked you, that when the mind is made of the gunas and the gunas are in flux, how can you restrain them? What is the restraint Nirodha means? That is answered by Sutra 12. Tataha punaha shanta uditahu tulya pratyayau chittasya ekagrata. What happens when your mind is focused on one object of meditation? What is happening? The thoughts are always changing because it is having guna, the gunas are always in flux. So the thoughts are also in flux. So thoughts are always changing. But what happens? The earlier thought, whatever the object the thought was having, the subsequent thought also will have identical object of meditation. The subsequent also, every thought will have identical object of meditation. This is called one-pointedness. This is called Nirodha. This is called Nirodha. So that's what he says that in 3.1.12. So what is happening? This is why we need to understand Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha. What does it mean? In yoga, the mind is focused on a single object and continuously focusing, even though the thoughts are changing, new thoughts are coming. But for every thought, the object of meditation is only one. So other than the object of meditation, there are no other thoughts. The thought is focused on the object of meditation. The thought is focused on the object of meditation, and every subsequent succeeding thoughts will have identical object. So, in short, the goal of yoga is to eliminate, that is to still the potential of rajas and tamas. So long as the mind has got a rajasic and tamasic quality, guna, it will tend to go out. It will tend to get distracted. So how do we overcome that? By developing sattva guna. The mind becomes more and more becomes sattva. Then the rajasic and tamasic part is suppressed and the mind becomes concentrated. So this is not developed just overnight. We need to practice it. It is like practicing a cycle. No? Initially you fall down many times. Then after some point of time, I can see the young boys leaving both the hands and seeing here and there that anybody is noticing and appreciating, right? Similarly, the practice, we do meditation every day, that the mind will be, the ability of the mind to focus on a particular object and continue with the object. That is the Ekagrata Parinama, that is possible. So long as you are able to continue that focus, the meditation continues. When the disturbance comes, then the meditation stops. Then you can continue it again. I know people who can meditate very, very long time. Very, very long time. So what we have done? We have seen three parinamas: Nirodha Parinama, Samadhi Parinama, and Ekagrata Parinama. Nirodha Parinama concerns the suppression of distraction. When the mind is distracted, you are suppressing the distraction. That is called Nirodha Parinamaha. And what is Samadhi Parinama? It is concerns with the emergence of one-pointedness. You stopped suppression, you suppressed the distraction, then you are started focusing on one object, one-pointedness that emerged, that is Samadhi Parinama. Then what is Ekagrata Parinama? It may appear similar to Samadhi. No. Samadhi, the one-pointedness emerges. In Ekagrata Parinama, it concerns with ongoing, unbroken, continuous attention of that one-pointedness. So, in Ekagrata Parinama, it concerns with unbroken, continuing of that one-pointedness. Continuously unbroken, you continue with the one-pointedness. This is called Ekagrata Parinama. So we now understand that what is Nirodha. Nirodha means select an object for meditation and continuously focus on that. And first initially the distraction will come, suppress it by Nirodha Parinama. Then let one-pointedness emerge. That can happen by Samadhi Parinama. then continue with the unbroken one-pointedness. That happens with Ekagrata Parinama. So long as you are able to continue, the meditation lasts. Once the distraction comes, the meditation stops. But by practice, it doesn't happen like this. If you practice it every day, you will develop this skill very well. At some point of time, you will go to a level where only prasanta vahita, only peaceful state of mind, you will feel very good there. Okay? So, we have covered in this C what happens. The first sutra, Yoga Chittavritti Nirodha, it is in the first chapter, it's the second sutra. But to understand from 360-degree point of view, we need to cover 4 or 5 sutras from third chapter also. So it is an integrated text. So we need to understand and appreciate one sutra, we need to understand other sutras also. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Gurubhyo Namaha. Namo Namaha.